Salutations, every pup, and welcome to Chapter 15 of Ignore the Dementor by NinjaPandaScholar. As always, the link to the fic will be in the description below. And with that out of the way, let's jump on into it. Chapter 15 Plan D. Author's Notes. Warning. Torture scene. Not too graphic, but it exists. Hermione was fast and good at what she did. Harry had the coins for the HSMC within a week, spelled with a protean charm, so that whoever had one could use it to call for help if needed. It would display the person's name and location. They just had to hold the coin and think of it. Hermione had even spelled one for Harry slightly different so that it could send out a message to all the other coins. Harry got the feeling she thought he was going to send them to the Dementors, since he hadn't told her what they were for. So she wanted to make sure he could ask for help when needed. Harry had the whole lot of them in his robe pocket as he nervously made his way to remedial potions. Nervous is how he did everything now. It had been a week since Umbridge had taken over, and he hadn't gotten a detention yet. He could see the calculating look in the evil woman's eye, though, so he knew it was coming, and whatever it was wouldn't be good. He figured that Umbridge might have a suspicion that he had done something to her blood quills, so her hate of him only seemed to increase. Drake and Ronnie were due to arrive in just a few days, and he didn't want any extra attention on himself, and when he needed to sneak out to meet the other Dementors, or, Merlin forbid, be in detention then. He did make it safely to the meeting of the HSMC, thankfully. Harry wasn't 2 steps into the room before he realized something big was going on. Matthew was sitting with his head on a table, and David and Brooke were on either side of him, trying to comfort him. Colin Creevy was sulking in a corner with Dennis and Aisling keeping him company. Draco looked like he was going to burst out laughing, while Graham and Neville shot him disapproving looks. Then, Hestia, Luna, Kara, and Aurora seemed to be ganging up on Professor Snape in the corner over something, and he was looking rather put out. Lastly, Bartholomew, Aurelius, and Eyre were sitting off to the side, munching on snacks and looking like they were thoroughly enjoying the drama. "So, do I even want to know?" he asked the group of spectators tentatively. "Matthew finally found his mate," Eyre answered with a smile and a chuckle. "Yeah, it wasn't someone expected," Bartholomew continued. "The girls all think Severus should be helping him woo her, and Draco made some inappropriate comments that would have gotten him detention in any other setting." "It's epic, mate," Aurelius nodded with a wide grin. "You should have gotten here earlier." "Wow, yeah." Harry took out 3 of the coins. "I needed to get these first." He then went on to explain how they worked to the group's surprise and relief that they had a way to get in touch with each other. Harry went to the ragging on Malfoy group next. "So, what did he say?" Harry raised an eyebrow and smirked at the blonde. Did you hear? Matthew's mate is a professor." Neville coughed awkwardly. "Draco made some comments about ways to get good grades, if you catch my drift." Harry blushed and chuckled. "Actually, no, I didn't hear that." "Merlin, it isn't McGonagall, is it right?" "Hell no!" Graham protested vehemently. "Professor Sinistra. She's only about 6 years older than Matthew, and not terrible looking. Definitely not McGonagall. Don't even put that image in my head. You should be ashamed of You should be ashamed of yourself," Harry laughed as he handed an unrepentant Draco and the rest their coins. "Harry, I already have one of these," Neville remarked when he got his. "No, these are a little different." The Dementor went on to explain the coins to this group as well. "They're just a safety measure in case Umbridge finds out about any of us," he ended with. "Go to that group next," Draco pointed to Matthew's pity party. "Uncle Sev is probably about ready to blow up at someone over there." Harry nodded in agreement and shuffled over to Matthew, David, and Brooke. "Hey guys," he said tentatively. "Matthew, I think Professor Sinistra is quite fit, really. Congratulations. I think you'll be happy together." "What are the correct sentiments in this situation?" Harry ended awkwardly. "I haven't told her yet," Matthew sighed. "She's gorgeous, though, right? She'll never want to be with a student, though." "Well, it's only about 5 months left before you graduate," Brooke soothed him. Besides, you're of age, and the rules don't really apply to a villa and mate situation. Yeah, Matt. This has to be one of those exceptions to the rules things, David agreed, patting the villa on the back. Besides, you know the girls over there. They're definitely going to talk Severus into either talking you up or at least explaining the situation to her if she freaks. Yeah, Harry said slowly. I don't think I'd want Snape talking me up, but that's just me. Maybe aim for that second option. Besides, you're a feeler. Brooke rolled her eyes. No one in their right mind would turn you down. You're gorgeous. David raised an eyebrow and glared at his girlfriend a bit at that, but she just shrugged unrepentantly. Harry was a little uncomfortable, not knowing how to help in these situations, so he quickly passed out the coins and explained them so that he could move on. Colin, Dennis, and Aisling were no better. Colin had finally asked Ginny to the first Hogsmeade weekend, and she turned him down. Harry quickly passed out the coins so as to not get dragged into it. Bright side, Colin. Umbridge will probably cancel all the Hogsmeade weekends soon anyway, Harry added after explaining the coins. Apparently, that was not the right thing to say, as he had to hurry away to avoid being caught up dealing with tears. The next group was going to be even more of a challenge, though. They were not letting up on Snape, who didn't seem to want anything to do with the Vila courting one of his coworkers. I refuse to deal with hormonal villas or the personal lives of my coworkers, Snape growled for what was probably the 100th time when Harry drew near. He'll act more and more erratic until she agrees to be with him, though, Kara was explaining sternly. That will put our secret in jeopardy and draw Umbridge's attention. If he goes to Sinistra and she doesn't listen to him, it'll do the same thing. Snape glowered at the girl from his house. He should just tell her. From the gossip, I try my hardest not to hear. She's not seeing anyone right now. Apparently, her last lover cheated on her with a friend. Snape rolled his eyes, knowing way more gossip than he should. It was all they could talk about in the staff room for months. He was a Quidditch player for the Chudley Cannons or something equally ridiculous. See, that's why we need you involved. Luna crossed her arms and smiled at him. Hey, Matthew, she's single, Luna called out, causing Matthew to grin stupidly back and sigh in relief. You should mention Vila's around her, see how she reacts, Kara continued. Then we have a better idea for how to plan the approach. It's his relationship. He should handle it. Snape sneered and pointed towards Matthew. What do you want, Potter? He turned his attention to the one male student standing in front of him. Harry quickly explained and passed out the coins. Luna gave him a quick peck on the cheek, causing Harry to blush furiously, while everyone else looked grateful. Snape narrowed his eyes and refused to take the one held out for him. This is just another excuse for one of your heroic misadventures, isn't it? He said suspiciously. Or you could be the one to show up when someone gets in trouble, probably with Umbridge. Harry shrugged and continued to hold out the coin. I'm no Gryffindor, Potter. Snape sneered and crossed his arms. No, but you're very brave. Harry leaned forward, not breaking eye contact. He pulled open the corner of one of Snape's large robe pockets and dropped the coin into it. You did stare down a monster who wanted to eat you over Christmas break. He reminded Snape of his interactions with Drake. Snape looked a little confused. Frankly, I wasn't aware I was in that much danger. Harry shrugged and took in a deep breath. A little spicy, but still fairly bland. Nope, I don't think you were in too much danger. Harry smirked at him, assessing the taste of the man's soul. Padfoot's house elf was probably more dangerous, if we're being honest. I'm lost and bored now. Hestia rolled her eyes. Let's go make fun of Draco. If we must. Kara shrugged, and the group wandered away. That's actually a good idea, Luna said, with a dreamy look on her face before turning around. Draco, you should help out Matthew. Hell no! He called out indignantly. I'm not getting in the middle of this. Severus smirked, seeing his way out of the situation. Ah, Draco, I think it's a wonderful idea. Yes, that definitely seems the best plan. Harry shook his head. That, frankly, sounded worse than Snape talking someone up, in his opinion. Yeah, Draco! Matthew raised his head and grinned again, unconsciously losing a bit of his Vila allure and causing Brooke and David both to have to shake off their sudden attraction to their friend. You'll mention me and how you think I'm a Vila or something. See what she says. You can do that. Come on, Dre. Neville nudged him in the ribs. You have to make up for all those insults outside of the club somehow. This sounds like a good start to me. Draco rolled his eyes. Matthew's a seventh year. I don't believe I've ever insulted him outside of the club. What about you? He turned to Kara, who was now lounging on the back of the couch behind him. She likes you, and you're good at astronomy. I'm a Valkyrie. Kara rolled her eyes at him. Harry grinned broadly, answering one more question about what the club members were. I'd rather punch the woman than help out her romantic life. The Valkyrie shuddered at that. Please, I'm worse than our illustrious grump of a leader over there. Snape sent a death glare her way, but seemed to be unwilling to take points from his own house. Harry turned a speculative glance to Eyre from his house. She was good friends with Kara. Maybe she was a Valkyrie too? He promised himself to read up on Valkyries a bit more. Natural-born warriors seemed helpful to have around in a tough situation. Fine, Malfoy grumbled. I'll go ask Professor Sinistra a question about the homework and figure out some way to casually mention Velas. I hate you all. He huffed at the end. Neville gave him a hug, and Harry raised an eyebrow at the elf. Draco just rolled his eyes and patted Neville on the back. Harry still hadn't figured out what was going on with that situation. Without knowing what Malfoy was, it all seemed extremely strange. Were they friends? Did they like each other? Was it just a creature magnetism thing? Harry figured it was a mystery he actually wanted to solve, and one that was much safer than the Sorcerer's Stone or the Chamber of Secrets. I know that look. Luna draped an arm around his shoulders and whispered in his ear. Stay out of it. They probably don't even know the answers to your questions themselves. I love a good mystery, though. Harry grinned at her over his shoulder. How are you feeling, by the way? She changed the subject, looking concerned. Harry shook his head, trying not to think about it. Like my stomach is a black hole, he sighed. At least Jamie is doing all right. You have a lot less ragspots now than a few months ago, Luna nodded. Much less distracting. Harry's luck couldn't hold any longer. It only took him sitting down in DADA the next day before their new headmistress turned beady eyes on him. Mr. Potter! Harry took in a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever was about to happen. He saw Hermione and Ron glance at him in concern from the corner of his eye. Surprisingly, he saw Malfoy look up with a sad expression on his face as well. Yes, Professor Umbridge? Detention, Mr. Potter, she smirked evilly, for being out of uniform. Harry looked down at his Gryffindor robes, tie, shoes. I don't understand, Professor. Your jewelry, Mr. Potter, Umbridge said as she walked to the front of the classroom. That necklace and bracelet aren't in uniform. Harry couldn't help his eyes cutting over to Pansy Parkinson, who was also wearing a necklace. He held his tongue, though. Professor, I've been wearing these for months now. I didn't realize they were against the dress code. He tried his hardest to say respectfully. He figured it was a lost cause, though. There was no getting out of the detention. Ah, an oversight on my part, then. The professor looked back at him with a gleam in her eyes. I believe that should be a week of detentions, then, she added on. Harry sighed. Yes, that was definitely his luck. He took out his book and did everything in his power to keep himself from saying anything else. He did not want any more detentions added on. There was no telling what she was planning to do to him. Harry, keep your temper in check. Do whatever she says and come right back here so we know you're okay and can heal you if needed, Hermione instructed him as he prepared to leave the Gryffindor common room that night for his detention with Umbridge. Or go to Madame Pomfrey or Dumbledore, Ron added on at the end, depending on what she does, okay? I'll be fine, guys. I'm indestructible, remember? Harry smiled at them nervously, trying to convince himself. Jamie isn't, though, mate. Ron shook his head sadly. I can't believe we're sending you back there, Hermione growled in frustration. I can't believe there isn't anything we can do. She's a ministry official, Harry shrugged, feeling just as helpless. I've already survived weeks of detentions with her. What's one more? I hate her more than Voldemort! Hermione exclaimed darkly. Apparently, when her view of authority was tarnished, she didn't handle it well. Ron looked at her like she'd gone insane. Hermione, I get it, but that's a bit strong. It's true! She abuses her power and hides behind her position. She breaks the law and uses it to cover up her own crimes. That's inexcusable! I'll be back in a couple hours. Harry gave Hermione a little hug before turning to leave. It'll all be over soon. No worries. Harry walked into the DADA professor's office, wondering why Umbridge wanted him to go there instead of the headmistress's office. It didn't take him long to realize that it was because there weren't any portraits in that office. No witnesses. Ah, Mr. Potter! Umbridge stood from her desk and walked around it. You have been very naughty. I can't prove it, but I know you were the ones that took my favorite toys. I don't know what you're talking about, Professor, Harry remarked from where he was standing just inside the door, really wanting to just flee at the moment. Really? With a wave of her wand, a silencing word rose behind Harry over the door. All his senses screamed for him to run. All thoughts of him being indestructible went out the window, and fear came to the forefront of his mind. How are we to play now? What am I doing for detention, ma'am? Harry stuttered out, trying to reach for his wand, but in a way she wouldn't see. Screaming! She snarled before. Crush! Harry hit the floor, having fallen awkwardly on his arm. He couldn't feel what had happened to his arm. The pain in the rest of his body was too intense. Harry writhed on the floor in agony. Every nerve ending he had felt like it was being burned with a hot poker. Realistically, it was probably only a few minutes that Umbridge was able to hold the curse, at the most, but it felt like months. The woman's hate must run exceptionally deep. It was all Harry could do to hold on to Jamie. The pain was calling for him to separate from the body, since the curse could not affect a Dementor, so letting go would be escaping the pain. It would also mean being found out, though. He screamed until his voice gave out, the only release available to him. When Umbridge finally stopped, Harry couldn't even raise his head from the floor, though he hadn't even felt it when he hit the floor. He knew his arm was fractured, if not completely broken from the impact. It's a pity the pain curse doesn't leave any marks. That was the beauty of the blood quills. They left a beautiful reminder, Umbridge mused in a sickening tone. Oh, well, I guess we can fix that, too. With the murmured spell, Harry felt a shallow gash from a cutting curse hit his side. His already sensitive nerves screamed as he did, too, an inhuman screech of anger, fear, and pain that sounded more like the Dementor language than human. A blur of pink suddenly appeared in his unfocused vision. I'll probably need to heal you some before letting you leave, or someone may try to stop our fun. Umbridge chuckled as she raked long nails down Harry's face, leaving tracks of blood behind and setting his facial nerves on fire. Harry whimpered and tried to move, but Jamie was out. If Harry hadn't have been a Dementor, he knew he would be unconscious by now. A pain burned through him, pulling the Dementor to feed, to leave the body harming it and stop what was happening. Mr. Potter, I do believe it's my responsibility now to teach you to respect and submit to authority. The pink toad like face moved closer in his vision as her hand tugged painfully on his hair. We'll have so much fun, you and I. The face got closer and closer. The hell? Harry thought frantically. He didn't like where this was going. Was she planning to kiss him? Oh, hell no! He definitely didn't like where this was going. Unfortunately for Umbridge, fortunately for the rest of the world, putting your face right in front of an injured Dementor's is the absolute worst idea imaginable. The dead weight of Jamie was immediately dropped to the floor and shed easier than a snake's skin. Umbridge's face was met with the hooded mouth of a Dementor while a skeletal hand fisted her robes and pulled her closer. Not even giving her the time to scream, Harry pulled her soul from her body and absorbed it into himself. It was divine. It was like candy floss and caramel with a hint of treacle. The Dementor hovered up, discarding the soulless body from himself, taking in the room as he breathed deeply, no longer in pain or hungry. Then, his suppressed human instincts caught up with him with a gasp. Harry sank down to the where he was hovering just over the floor and put his head into his hands. The soulless body of his former DADA professor lying beside the bleeding body of Jamie filled his vision. What had he done? He was a murderer, was the only thing that kept running through his mind. He'd killed someone. Worse than killed someone. It was a ministry employee to make it even worse. What could he do now? The woman was obviously evil, so turning himself in didn't sit right with him. Plus, he was a Dementor. What were they going to do with him? He'd probably just end up working with the other Dementors in the Caribbean. No, turning himself in was not right. The next thought he had was what to do with the body. Who did you call in to help you bury a body, especially when it was technically still alive? He couldn't help a look of pure disgust at the prone form still lying just feet from Jamie's injured and broken body. She deserved it! The Dementor screamed in his head. Harry couldn't believe he was now planning on covering up a murder. It was either that, turning himself in, or running. Turning himself in and running basically had the same outcome of ending up with the other Dementors. Umbridge was evil, though, and he felt like he still had things to do in Britain, like stopping Voldemort and keeping his friends safe. So back to who to call in to help get rid of a body that was technically still alive. Also, how to get Jamie medical attention. He quickly checked the gash on Jamie's side and the scratches on his face, but neither were deep or life-threatening, though the gash in his side would probably scar even with healing, since it felt of dark magic. The nerve damage was what was most concerning at the moment, though. Umbridge didn't have the power behind the curse that Voldemort did, but she had held it for longer. The decision of what to do actually wasn't that hard. It was a bit of a gamble, but he didn't think it was that much of a stretch. Who did you call when you needed to clean something up, anyway? Dobby! Winky! Harry called out fearfully. Twin Pops and both house elves were standing in front of the distressed Dementor. Harry Dementor! What can Dobby and Winky help you with? Dobby asked, as both of their eyes seemed to settle on the soulless shell in the room and the broken form of Jamie. Oh, he said simply at the end. Winky says good riddance, the female elf nodded decidedly. I've told Dumbledore that Plan D was the best plan. I guess that's what we're doing anyway. Is Mr. Jamie okay? No, please don't tell Dumbledore, Harry gasped out at the elves. Jamie will be fine, but we need to keep this quiet. Both elves glared at him like he was crazy. Why's we tell Headmaster Dumbledore? Dobby asked, crossing his arms. Problem handled. No problem handled, Harry exclaimed in frustration. What do I do now? She's still alive. Sort of. You guys have to help me, please. I didn't mean to, but what do I do now? Winky sighed deeply. Well, we have to get rid of the body. It's still alive! Harry exclaimed again in a loud shriek. Shh! Dobby shushed him and threw up a silencing ward on the door since Umbridge's had broken with her death. Winky wasn't saying she'd kill her! Winky raised an eyebrow at the other elf and rolled her eyes. Yes, that's definitely what she had been offering. What do you suggest then, all-knowing Dobby? She asked sarcastically. We just need to take care of it until it goes naturally. Dobby glared back at her. Winky huffed. That could take a couple weeks, though. Where are we going to put it? The kitchen? No, maybe one of the old werewolf rooms, he suggested. No werewolf No werewolf right now, so no one would know. We'd have to keep going to checks on it, though. Winky wrinkled her nose in distaste. Merlin, I'm a murderer! Harry gasped again, as it just kept sinking in. Hush, Harry Dementor! Winky glared at him. She was evil, woman! She would have killed any of us if she could. You saved creatures! Obviously, you saved Mr. Jamie as well. Harry Potter, sir! Dobby wrapped his arm around Harry's neck from where he was still hovering just over the floor and stared under the hood. You'll tell no one what happened today! You hear, Dobby? No one needs to know! But Harry didn't know how he was going to finish that sentence. He felt he should tell someone, right? No! We put the body in one of the old rooms and we get someone to help Jamie, but no one else needs to know! Dobby narrowed his eyes in warning. Who do you want us to get? Winky asked kindly. Mr. Jamie needs help. We can get Poppy Elf or we can get the Potions Master. They's going to know what Harry Dementor did, Dobby warned. Mr. Jamie is hurt, had detention with the Toad Woman, and she's disappeared. Days can't prove anything, Winky reminded him. We can trust either Poppy Elf or Potions Master. Madame Pomfrey still doesn't know what I am, Harry shook his head. It's probably best she doesn't learn this way. Besides, Professor Snape owes me. Okay, Winky takes care of the trash and Dobby gets Snape Professor. Winky nodded before popping out with Umbridge's body. Dobby, please tell Professor Snape to bring the potion that counteracts the Cruciatus curse, Harry told his friend, who gave him one more hug before popping out. Harry was left hovering over the floor all alone. He'd just gotten past one secret with his friends, and now he was taking on another one. He'd assured everyone he wasn't dangerous, and then he goes and murders the headmistress. He really couldn't bring himself to regret it much, though. Besides feeling that he'd let his friends and Dumbledore down, no one with a soul that tasted that good should be around children, and he didn't even want to think about where her torture was probably heading down before he stopped her. No, he'd deal with the fallout and keep it to himself. He would definitely be under suspicion, but as Winky said, no one could prove anything without a body. Merlin, Snape exclaimed as he rushed into the room, Dobby trotting along behind him. What happened? Harry stayed quiet and ignored the question as Snape cast several diagnostic spells at Jamie. You will answer me, Mr. Potter. Snape looked up from the body, a sickly look on his face as all the injuries registered with him. Harry just glanced over to Dobby, though, who had crossed his little arms and looked stern. Potions Master Snape doesn't want it to know. Use heal Mr. Jamie and don't ask questions. Harry Potter says you owe him, Dobby informed him, in a tone that said the man would obey him. Snape looked between the Dementor and the house elf, a tight look around his eyes. Can you get back in your body? Snape finally asked, as he took some vials from his pockets. It will be easier to get you to swallow the potion. Harry shook his head. The pain would just expel him again. It had taken everything he had to stay in as long as he had. Fine. Snape nodded and unstopped the vial. I don't want to get dragged into whatever happened here anyway. You'll need to take it easy for a few days. Bed rest would be best. but I'm assuming you don't want to raise anyone's suspicions, so just take it easy instead. You will keep this from Headmaster Dumbledore, Dobby instructed the man as he made the body drink the potions. Snape nodded slowly. This gash in your side was caused by dark magic. I can close it, but you'll have to keep from doing anything strenuous, or it will open again. Harry nodded in understanding and watched as Snape closed the gashes on his face with the spell. So many crimes were committed in this room, Snape sighed. I can only imagine what happened to our illustrious headmistress. I know what should have happened to her, but I'll reserve my comments on that. Harry was finally able to settle back into Jamie and pick up the body once more. He felt terrible. Dobby, I may need a little help back to Gryffindor Tower. He grimaced towards the elf. Snape smirked suddenly as he stood. I might finally get to teach defense against the dark arts now, he commented, with a glint of humor in his eyes. I think I'm going to go brush up on some of my lesson plans, he said before leaving the room in a billow of robes. All right, Harry Dementor, Dobby's got you, the little elf said as he helped up the taller boy with a bit of magic. We've got you settled for the night, and then you's come down to the kitchens and visit with Dobby and Winky once Jamie's asleep. We've need to come up with a plan for what to do when the Ministry investigates the Toad's disappearance. Thank you, Dobby, Harry breathed with as much gratitude as he could infuse into the sentence. Harry slowly walked into the Gryffindor common room, taking his time now that Dobby wasn't there to support him anymore. Harry, are you okay? Hermione and Ron rushed over. Harry noticed that the rest of the common room was empty. It must be after curfew already. Not really, he commented dryly, since it'd be pointless to claim anything different, as he looked more dead than alive at the moment. Snape patched me up, though. I'll be fine in a few days. He slowly lowered himself into an armchair with a sigh of relief. What did she do? Ron bent down in front of him, studying his friend to find where the injuries were. Merlin, you look terrible. Harry opened his eyes and looked pleadingly at his friends. I went to Umbridge's office, but she wasn't there. I never had detention with her. I'm fine and very confused about why I couldn't find her, he told them slowly. But, Hermione cocked her head, you're injured! No, I'm not, he said slowly again, with a raise of his eyebrow. Understand? No? Hermione looked even more confused, but Ron seemed to be getting it from the look on his face. Oh, Harry, he said, with a horrified look in his eyes. It was really bad, wasn't it? Tell me it was justified. Tell me she deserved it. Harry turned pained eyes on his friend and couldn't hold back a sob as everything he'd gone through that he'd been repressing hit him finally. Tears began to stream down his face as he broke down. Nothing happened. He sobbed out the lie that no one was going to believe. I never had detention. His hands were shaking, and it wasn't only the Cruciatus curse now. Hermione wrapped her arms around him, finally seeming to understand what happened. Harry, we need to tell Dumbledore. Nothing happened, he exclaimed as he was gasping between sobs. Hush, Hermione. Ron glared at her surprisingly. Don't you see? He didn't even break down like this after Voldemort last year. Harry, we have your back. If you say you didn't have detention tonight, then you didn't have detention. You were studying in the library. We'll tell anyone who asks. But, Ron! Hermione began with a disapproving look on her face. You hate him more than Voldemort, remember? Ron cut her off. Yeah, but... If this is too much for you, then go back to your dorm, Ron said, wrapping an arm around Harry and pushing her away some. I'll take care of him. Harry cried even harder and started to hyperventilate in panic. What if he hadn't stopped Umbridge? What would she have continued to do to him? Finally hit him as a thought. What if he wasn't the only one? Was the next thought. Deep breaths, Ron instructed as he patted Harry's back. Actually, Hermione, why don't you go get Neville? He's better at this than either of us. No! Harry exclaimed. Nothing happened. No one can know. Harry, you're a mess. Hermione sighed in resignation. No one is going to believe that right now. Ron, help me. Harry tried to stand and was only mostly successful. I'll drop off Jamie and go calm down somewhere else. Don't run off, Harry. You need people right now, Hermione pleaded. Harry wasn't even listening anymore, though. His panic had reached a level he couldn't deal with. He dropped Jamie right there in the chair and rose out of him, causing Ron and Hermione both to gasp and step back. No longer constrained to a human body, Harry calmed down some. At least not panicking anymore. He shouldn't have come back to the tower, he decided. No one was supposed to know. Why couldn't he just stay away? Break down somewhere alone? He ghosted through the door to the tower and escaped his two friends trying to stop him and calm him down. He needed to be alone. He had to fix this. And that's a wrap on chapter 15. And whoa, that got dark at the end there. I hope I voice act that well enough. I hope I made that as dark and depressing as possible for you guys. Please go show the original author Tixelia some love, and please leave me a comment. I love reading your comments. They make me so happy. Please leave me specifically hate comments. No comments in the last video, so nobody to shout out. And I hope you guys all enjoyed this, as dark as it was, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye, pups.